Okay, as we heard, recording started. I would like to raise your attention on the chat function. So if you have any question, remark, or recommendation regarding the webinar, regarding the discussion, please don't hesitate to share your thoughts through the chat section. Also, evaluation link will be shared in the chat section where you can where you can evaluate the webinar today. Yes, these are the main and most important instructions regarding the webinar. Also, I would like to ask everyone to turn off your microphone, so mute yourself when you are not talking, not to disturb the presenters or the discussions. Our topic for today will be the development of innovative employment policies based on public and private cooperations, and this topic will be demonstrated through the examples and experiences which we gained during the SIV project, the Social Impact Vouchers project, to refresh our, let's say, knowledge about the SIV project and to provide you basic information about the concept of SIV, Social Impact Voucher programs and their funding mechanisms. I will share a video, short video, so please watch it and hopefully you will get overall knowledge about our project, and then we can start the concrete discussion on the topic of today. Okay.
The Social Impact Vouchers project helps to change the lives of job seekers from disadvantaged social groups, innovatively, sustainably, and on a long-term basis. The project started in 2019 and is co-financed from the Interreg Central Europe Program. The project is a joint effort of 11 partners from 8 countries in this region. Non-profit organizations, municipal partners, business partners, and competence centers are testing the innovative project simultaneously and jointly. In their cooperation, they benefit from each other's country-specific innovations and special features. Each placement promotes the integration of disadvantaged people and provides companies with highly motivated employees. Moreover, voucher systems provide support to job seekers and employers also via training, coaching, or capacity building. In all project countries, there have long existed a large number of different, mostly public, support programs for the unemployed. Our ambition is not to replace them or compete with them, but rather to complement them where support is still needed. We see the possibility of addressing the most vulnerable of the vulnerables and helping them through individual approaches to obtain the best social policy tool, their own income from their own work. The sustainability of the voucher programs will be ensured through funding from the social impact funds. 4 project partners decided to set up individual funds at the national level, while 4 project partners joined forces to establish a transnational fund. This transnational cooperation is represented on the Next Access platform, where interested donors can inform themselves about the supported voucher programs and directly make financial contributions to the fund. The Social Impact Vouchers project marks merely the beginning of long-term and innovative support for job seekers from disadvantaged groups. But it's not just job seekers who benefit from the initiative. In this way, employers can first try employing vulnerable people who can be of great benefit to their business or other type of activity. And last but not least, every single success story moves our society forward. Get inspired as well.
Welcome back. I hope that you could enjoy the video. And those who has never heard about the SIV project now has at least a basic knowledge, a basic information of what we have been working for the last 3 years. Now we can start the concrete discussion on our topic for today, on how to develop innovative employment policies based on public and private cooperations. During our 3 years of project implementation, we have faced a lot of challenges which transformed the labor market totally. So we have started our project implementation within the frameworks of a relatively prosperous labor market, where the let's say the supply of labor was always higher than the demand for labor was always higher than the supply. So all those who really wanted to have a job had the opportunity to find jobs and job placement. Now this has been changed due to several challenges, several crises which we have faced during the past 2 years, especially due to the COVID, or now due to the war in Ukraine and the related migration crisis. So these all resulted that we face new challenges like mass unemployment and the changing labor market, and it resulted that new and innovative employment policies were needed on the labor market, which required, according to our experiences, public and private cooperations on different fields, from planning these innovative employment policies through the financing of them, and as well as to the implementation of these innovative employment policies. Now we brought you 3 examples of the SIV project, which show how we could develop public and private cooperations on the field of labor market and employment policies, and how we could influence, based on these cooperations, the public employment policy frameworks. The first example will be presented from Germany. So I would like to call Anja Grunov, the lead partner and project manager of the SIV project. She will talk about the traditional labor market programs of Nayarbeit, the traditional funding and public fundings mechanisms for these labor market programs, how they faced with the challenges of the current labor market, and how they integrated innovative labor market initiatives in their programs, and how they integrated innovative labor market instruments based on private funding, market revenues in their employment programs, including social impact vouchers programs. And she will talk about the advantages of these public and private cooperations. So Anja, the floor is yours. I will share the presentation.
Yeah, then thank you very much, Tamas, for your nice introduction, and a warm welcome also from my side to all the participants today. And yeah, we have a very interesting topic about innovative employment. And our title for today is a labor market beyond placement rates, privately financed labor market instruments as a complement to state instruments. So you can see it here on the slide, and we can already continue with the next slide. So we can see Tamas. Can you?
Yes, I am working on that. Okay.
That's great. Thank you very much. So we can see here that we have association of Neue Arbeit. And in this case, we have a statutory mission about bringing people back to the first labor market. And also we have a workshop for disabled people, that you know what's going on. We have here given some figures about the Neue Arbeit Association. We are in a field of commercial and non-profit surrounding. Then we have 62 million turnover, 1,600 employees with 60 nationalities, and it exists in this form since 1978. Then we just go to the next slide, and we will see then. Yeah, okay. Then yeah, we have to check now. We have here the possibility that we have different target groups, heterogeneous public funding, and we have here in this slide, we will see it now, 12 different groups. And as you know, we have here a lot of diverse groups, as we have, I just give some examples, work for the long-term unemployed. This is clear. Then we have also, for example, work for the mentally ill, work with the homeless, work instead of drugs, and also work instead of punishment. So we have diverse groups, and to reach then finally these groups, we need different public funding. And on the left-hand side, you see also the structure with the EU on top, and then we have different levels which are then here related to the single groups. Finally, we have also in Germany, it's embedded in social security codes. So also there as well, we have to take care about the legal relations. And finally, when we go now to the next slide, we can see here also then the possibility about the job description of commercial managers. Why we are giving this slide? Actually, it's to show also about the topic of us today, that to have here steps in this regard, being innovative and so on, we need a lot of abilities and capabilities, and here you can see some of them. So we have also to have a look for economic efficiency, of course, but of course we have to see then how we can deal with all the things. That's why I illustrated this with this figure. Then, to do this, then I give you some more information about the numbers in regard of public funds versus market revenues. You can see it on the next slide. And there you can see that finally, the green fields, we are talking now about public funds, and the revenues are, you can see now in the blue area. So there you can see very clear that in the beginning, we had a lot of possibilities 20 years back about public funding, but nowadays it's exactly the reverse of it. So that's the reason why we have to initiate more innovative ideas in regard of being independent of public funds more and more finally, because we want to survive also with our companies and so on. So you can see on the next slide, you can see here also the bars, which are also showing this, yeah, I would say this statement. Here you can see in the beginning, for example, we had a lot of these gray ones with grants, and the blue ones are revenues. And you can see here very clearly on this slide that now it's the opposite, that we are now in the situation we don't have so much grants anymore. So we have to be innovative with new projects. That's why we also are very innovative in this area. Also Neue Arbeit, as we heard on our policy and practice conference, also had a prior SIV mini model, and it's also to initiate here innovative ideas in advance. And also in the past, we have been very innovative in finding new solutions, new projects, and so on. That's why we are in this sense successful in being also in the economic way in a good status today. And you can see on the next slide, we can see here, yeah, Tamas, you can show it. We can see here also the alternative financing possibilities. I think this is one of the most important slides of this presentation also, because there you have again an overview about what is possible in this sense. We have first on the left-hand side, the philanthropic consumption capital as it is. I give some examples: fundraising, foundations, church funding, and consumption foundation. So this is one possibility. Then we have on the right-hand side, we see the social investment capital. There we have also different possibilities how to gain then money finally. So you can see here the profit participation certificates, the mezzanine capital, the social venture capital, and crowdfunding. A part of these topics we discussed also in our second webinar with our VP leader Goran Jeras about funds. Also, I would advise them to see this webinar as well, because there we also gained some interesting views in this regard. And we have also social consumption capital. So here you can see, for example, the lottery, social impact bonds, then the employer premiums, agency fees, merchandising, and compensatory levy transferred to long-term unemployed. So here you have an overview, and if you're interested, of course, you can also Google here more. You can see on the left-hand side, there are some examples of some topics, and there you can get some more inspiration. For example, the first one is about a project with people in jails, actually, where they are producing products and they are selling these products, and with the return they also support victims finally. So this is a very innovative approach in this sense. The second one is a supplementary financing of diaconical enterprises in competition. It's a 60-page study report, so I didn't want to have it here now, but if you're interested, of course, you can have a deeper look here. And also we have here a very interesting study report about this social impact bond approach. So if somebody is interested, also he can have here a deeper look. So in this sense, we can also go to the next slide. Finally, we have here the fact, what I said, that it's a matter of winning the future, that we are innovative. We are happy also that we had the possibility to introduce our SIV project in this regard, or with all of you. So that's why I hope we can also continue now in a good way to spread it more and more in Europe. And yeah, maybe you have got some inspiration now for your own companies, for your own activities. And if you have questions about it, you can always address us. And in the next slide, Tamas showed it already a bit. You can also contact me personally. And yeah, then thank you very much for listening to this presentation. And if you have any questions, we can also discuss it a bit. Also, we can continue with the other presentations, and maybe at the end also we can find a situation for discussing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Enya, for your presentation and for your, let's say, inspirational thoughts regarding how the private, the role of the private funding, the private capital can be increased even in such a field which is considered as a let's say priority area of public policies. So thank you very much for sharing your results in this regard. I don't know if there is any direct question now to Anya, either in the chat or through the Zoom opportunity. If not, we can move forward, and I would like to invite Klemens Foski. He will share their experiences regarding how the labor market changed and what kind of new trends they have faced with during the SIV project. These trends, let's say, force private companies to increase their role in labor market policies because of the simple reason that this is the only way they can be able to recruit and ensure more prepared employees for their goals. So the example which Clemens will share with us will be the example of the voucher model they have developed based on the cooperation of the Caritas, the Austrian Labor Market Service, and Everyone Codes. So Clemens, the floor is yours. Please share your presentation.
Yes, hello, welcome to all of you. Can you all see my presentation?
Okay.
Okay. Well, our network of partners within the SIV project consisted of the following institution. On the one hand, we as Caritas Vienna were a partner in the SIV project. And at the very beginning of the project, we thought about how could we enable and enhance private investment into the fund in order to finance the vouchers. So we thought about a project which would be in areas where companies have a lack in finding personnel, and there we thought that the IT business would be the right one to deal with. And we had already connection to NGO or a social startup called Everyone Codes in Austria, which emerged in 2015 and 16, where it was still called Refugees Code, where young refugees were educated and trained in coding. And it was then develop further into a bigger target group for unemployed people. So this was the one partner where we started with. And the program of Everyone Codes is a quite intensive coding program, which runs for 6 to 8 months. And it takes like an engagement of 30 to 40 hours per week for the candidates and participants. And it is partly financed by the AMS, the Austrian Labor Agency, and which was also part of the SIV project. The learning of the first intake of the Everyone Codes program was that we had so many participants that had hardly or no experience on the labor market, especially in the field of IT and business development. And so we learned that also after the training program, after 6 months, it was hard for them to get a job. So the idea was to create another stage of enabling them to find a job, and there Microsoft came into place. Everyone Codes had a relation to Microsoft already before, and in this context we developed a kind of mentoring program with Microsoft. So the whole program consists now of 2 parts. There is the 6 to 8 months training program, which I mentioned before, which is financed by the AMS, and which is also partly financed via the SIV project, as we are also supporting the program with social counseling and team events. And the other part is the private financed mentoring program, coaching and mentoring program, where not all, but most of the graduates from the Everyone Codes training program took part. And this was financed via the transnational fund, and the transnational fund was supported by Microsoft. Microsoft not only gave funding to the project, but they also placed the mentors and learned the participants how the business development and the work of a software developer works. So after this 6 months coaching, the matching with potential employers started, and we had 13 participants in the mentoring program, and all of them managed to find a job. As here is again how the cooperation evolved. It started in May 2020 with the cooperation between Everyone Codes and Caritas Vienna. Then there was in October the first intake of the coding program with 23 participants, of which of them 5 found a job and 18 graduated. 5 of the participants actually didn't manage to graduate from the program. Then in October 2021, the mentoring program with 13 participants started and ended in May 2022. And as I said before, all of them found a job. And then again in November 21, in parallel, the second intake of the coding program started with 16 graduates in May 2022. So this was the idea and how the project in the framework of SIV evolved. And now I want to talk about trends or possibility, how could we proceed with this project or with the learnings of the project. At the beginning, we thought that we would find enough potential funders or companies who would pay a bonus for bringing them software developers. And as I said, this was not, we could not realize this goal. So we now are thinking about what are future trends where we could find projects that could be more successful in finding better fundings and getting people to the labor market. And there we identified three like mega trends. The one is the green transformation, where a lot of technicians and so on will be needed within the next years all over Europe. The other one is digitalization, where we all already have been working on, as I said before. And the other trend is deglobalization, which means that more and more companies who had their production in China or in other countries now think about relocating their production back to Europe due to different reasons, such as delays in transportation, difficulties now, for example, as it exists in Shanghai, where the lockdown lasts now for 3 months and people could not work and the production could not be held on. These are the major mega trends where we could work on. And the other thing is that there are changes also on the labor market. On the one hand, after the pandemic has hopefully ended now, the number of jobless people, especially here in Austria, and I think also in other parts of Europe, is going down rapidly. And there is even a skills shortage in certain industries. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, employers become more and more sensible to job conditions, especially in lower paid job or in precarious jobs. So they're looking on the job conditions and do not accept any job they get offered. And as I said before, there is a lack of employees in certain industries like tourism, care, and IT. So I think this would be opportunities to set up on or to build up on the project we have worked so far, and this could create new chances for private-public partnership models for labor market integration and transformation, which would need, on the one hand, where we would need flexible instruments, because situations are changing rapidly, and so we need more flexibility. In this context, I read yesterday in the newspaper that in Austria, the Austrian Labor Market Service is also creating or has created and piloted a flexible voucher system, and they want to roll it out through all over Austria. So this, what we have tested within the last 3 years, has becoming or will become part of the Austrian Labor Market Service. The idea behind is that before, unemployed people, they were not able to choose what kind of training or qualification they could attend, but it was chosen for them. Now with this voucher model, they can choose between qualifications or training programs where they would like to work in future. And other opportunities is or come from the need for requalification, especially in the industries I said before, or from these mega trends like for green economies, digitalization, and so on, and also from this new kind of relations between employers and employees. Finally, I want to say that maybe this would also force more mobility of a labor force, that because there is we have different situations with unemployment in different European regions, and this could also be a possibility or a chance with higher mobility of labor force to get these imbalance or to how to say to work on this imbalance of unemployment within Europe. So these are like ideas where we could work on in future, and we have already discussed that the transnational fund, which we have created, could develop in future, and some possible directions would be that now we have like different projects with different voucher models in different countries. And in future, we could focus on one industry, on one kind of voucher model, so that it would be easier to understand what we are doing and also easier to get fundings for the transnational fund. Yes, this was my input for this webinar. If there are any questions, please go ahead.
Thank you, Clemens, for explaining so clearly how social impact voucher programs can help the adaptation of labor market and employment to the recent trends of the labor market, like digitalization, and how this can be supported by public and private cooperations and public and private financing. So it was a very clear and comprehensive explanation of your experiences, and thank you for sharing the let's say success of voucher-based employment initiatives in Austria. I think it's a big let's say development of innovativeness or innovativity of labor market policies. So thank you for that. I don't know if any of the participants has any question, remark right now. We give the opportunity to address these to Clemens, or if there are not, we will move forward, and I would like to call Anna Mészáros to present how the experiences of the Hungarian voucher program, the pilot which we have implemented in Hungary, could be turned into an employment policy tool based on public funding in Hungary, namely within the frameworks of the Emerging Settlements program. So Anna, please hold your presentation on this experiences, and meanwhile I would like to raise your attention that the evaluation link of the webinar is shared in the chat, so please leave your feedbacks there. And now, Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tamás, and welcome everyone. It's very interesting listening to either Anya's or Clemens' presentation, because you will see what we wanted to plan, or how we wanted to structure our voucher program, I think, or scaling our voucher program resonates in some ways to what they were talking about. We in Hungary, I think, were quite successful. How we, though, but I think it would partly by luck, but actually we were successful to scale our program, and I will give you some details how we did that and what are the results of our scaling of the program. First of all, I'd like to show you how the logic of funding social impact vouchers goes. You will see it later on this one in Tamás's presentation as well, just to remind how the logic of the vouchers and the funding are going together. So we have the social impact vouchers, and they are connected to the employers. They connect the employers and the job seekers, and when the voucher program is successful, then it goes, it results in employment of the job seekers.
Sorry, Anna, we don't see change in your slides. I don't
I'm doing it. I'm doing it. No changes.
No.
No, then okay, I will talk about this. This is not a problem for me. So we have the vouchers, and then we will need money for financing the vouchers, and we need a social impact fund to do that. And the social impact fund is either we use private capital or public funding. We see that in, now you can see my slide. Can you see my slide?
Unfortunately, no change.
No
Maybe
changes.
If you try to share again.
Okay, I will do it. Now it went down totally. Do you have my presentation, Tamás?
Yes, I have. So I will try to solve this problem. Sorry for that. As I told,
it seems to be working on my screen.
Then I am sharing. I hope this is that one. You see that?
Yeah, I do. And we were at the second, and you can move forward to the third slide.
And do you see the change?
I do.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry for that.
Can you put it on presentation mode?
Let's try.
No, it does not work.
Unfortunately, we won't be able to see it in presentation mode.
Okay.
Specificity of
okay, now I will talk, don't worry. So, as you heard from our program, there were at the introduction, every country participating in the SIV program, they developed its own voucher model. And when we started to think what we can do in Hungary, and also did a quite good mapping of the Hungarian labor market and the labor market policies, we realized that there are two things which we cannot really achieve. One thing is that we won't be able to finance the salaries or wage subsidies from the voucher program, and the second one, that we can't count on any refund from the employer's side. So what we did, we developed a voucher system where the beneficiary of the voucher are the employers, and they can purchase labor market services from labor market service providers. You will see later on who was it in our pilot program and who will be later on the scaled voucher program. Next slide, please. And when we again did the mapping, we realized two things. There are three things. There are different public sources in Hungary available, from Hungarian national sources, also from European ESF, ERDF sources available with traditional instruments or solutions for the labor market. We also realized that the private impact investment sources in Hungary are that much limited, very limited, and the investors require all the time some kind of return on their investment. But in our case, it won't be possible. So we cannot use this capital for financing the voucher program. And there were new instruments introduced and different instruments introduced on the labor market to handle the crisis situation caused by the COVID. And this this labor market instruments or solutions were concentrating mainly on keeping the people, keeping the workforce who is already working in their jobs, and they were not focusing on unemployed people. Next slide, please. So we started the SIV program. We developed our own voucher model in 2020, and in 2021 we started the pilot program. It was implemented by the Tutor Foundation, who works together with the Hungarian charity service of the Order of Malta in the Emerging Settlements Program, which was already mentioned several times here in this presentation. And they implemented the Voucher Program in the northeast of Hungary. We consider the program being quite successful. We were able to, I would say, match 40 job seekers, long-term unemployed people with employers. And I don't know the exact data, but I think about 30–40% were still in their jobs after 3 months of employment. And based on the lessons learned from the pilot program, IFCO was contracted by the owner of the Emerging Settlements Program to prepare a study for scaling the Voucher Program. And this study and also the ideas, the structure of the Voucher Program was included in the further development of the Emerging Settlements Program, which will be financed by the Resilience and Recovery Fund, and the implementation planned for between 2023 and 26 in the coming years. Please, next one. The Voucher Program is an element, the component C of the element C of the Hungarian Recovery and Resilience Plan. The objective of this element C or component C, the job socialization and skills development based on local specifics. And as I mentioned before, the program is implemented by the Hungarian Charity Service of the Order of Malta in certain areas of Hungary in cooperation with the Hungarian Baptist Aid and the Hungarian Interchurch Aid. This program covers 300 less developed settlements in Hungary. Next. The Voucher Program is to contribute to employability and employment enhancement of the objectives of the Emerging Settlements Program. And the Voucher Program has 3 big objectives, 3 main objectives: contributing to the economic growth in the given areas by creating jobs, strengthening the resilience, and mitigating the social and economic impact of the crisis. The structure or the main elements of the program are: the target group are long-term unemployed. The beneficiaries of the vouchers are micro and social enterprises, SMEs, and multinational companies also, so bigger companies in the given region. The issuer of the vouchers is the leader of the priority program, the Hungarian Charity Service of the Order of Malta. And the labor market services are provided by professionals, so labor market services and recruitment companies. In the program we included, so this is suggestion, but actually it's included in this way in the emerging market, emerging settlements priority program. So we widened the services included in the program. So we stay further with the recruitment services, which means that based on the lessons learned from the already done by the Emerging Settlements Program, they do workforce demand screening, workforce pre-screening, and workforce deployment in cooperation with the labor market providers. But this time we included additional services. This is also a very important part. And in this case, the program plans to cover the wages of a certain group for 3 months to socialize them to the workplace. We are speaking here from long-term unemployed with less socialization, not just in the normal life, but also in the workplaces. So in the plans are that target group members will be secured by a training program for 3 months, will be supported by a minimum wage. And also not just them will be provided a wage subsidy, but also the mentors who are working with them in the workplaces. The next slide. But we also, and this is how we resonate partly to what Clemens said. We also understood that they need further development and further services, this long-term unemployed, because they face a lot of health issues. So by entering the program, the employers can also finance the health assessment and offer medical service to the long-term unemployed entering the labor market. They can also finance some kind of a startup kit or working starting kit, which means working clothes and kind of a hygienic kit, because they need that kind of support as well. But also to support their mobility to the workplace. They can also cover for a while, for a certain period of time, the transportation of the workforce to the workplace, and in some cases the accommodation of the workforce. And also we don't know whether it will be really included in the program, but we also suggested that one of entry bonuses for the job seekers or those who are participating in this training program. And all the modules, there are, because what we faced that even a voucher model can be quite complicated and demand a lot of administrative work. So actually the service providers will be also supported by financing some service related data collection, administration, and reporting to the program. And these are the numbers of what we suggested, and you can see that this is a real scaling of the program. I won't go into details for the different services, but the total number is for the program is 500 million Hungarian forints, which is in the current rates, which is changing all the time. It's about 1.3 million euros. Breakdown in the different service elements. And we don't know how much the program how much money will be allocated to the program, but in fact, it does not matter. It means that we were able to find a priority program leader who is open to new ideas and open to innovative solutions on the labor market. And we really do hope that they will be able to implement it successfully, and then later on it can be used as a good instrument or a good tool in the labor market policies in Hungary. Thank you. If you have, of course, any questions or remarks or something, you write it in the chat, or you can ask us right now or at the end of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for explaining how our pilot experiences and results could be integrated in a higher scale public labor market policy program. If any of the participants has any direct question now, please address those in the chat or directly by asking Anna about her presentation. Or if there are no direct questions now, we can continue with the closing presentation that will be made by me. My task would be now to conclude everything what had been said, as well as a little bit the results of the social impact vouchers project, and to highlight the opportunities of facilitating and accelerating innovative labor market policies based on public and private cooperations. So some recommendations regarding how to engage the public sector to be open for innovative labor market instruments, and how to integrate these innovative labor market instruments or develop them like social impact vouchers into the existing and future policy schemes for labor market development. So I will try to share my presentation. I hope that I will be able to, let's say, overcome the problems which, okay. just a second. Just a quick test if you see the slides changing. Maybe not.
No.
Okay, then unfortunately I also have to make my presentation in the editing mode. I hope you see it now.
Yes, this one we see.
Okay, thank you very much. So just another second. So in my presentation, I would like to summarize a little bit the logic of the social impact voucher programs and the funding mechanisms behind them. Then I would like to highlight what kind of challenges we face during the project implementation. Many of them have been already mentioned by my colleagues, by my partners, our partners formerly. And also would like to explain how these challenges, let's say, forced our voucher programs to turn towards public and private cooperations and involvement of public funding in the implementation of the programs. Also would like to let's say, show you some public funding opportunities for innovative employment and labor market instruments, namely social impact voucher programs. And at the end, I'd like to draw some conclusions and recommendations on how to influence public policies and how to facilitate and accelerate the cooperation of public and private sectors for more effective, innovative labor market policies. So this is the, let's say, first slide, which Anna also had mentioned. Unfortunately, I cannot animate it now, but at the center of the of our work, of our programs, there were the social impact vouchers, these virtual or physical cash equivalents, which had been issued and provided either to employers or to job seekers within the frameworks of the different voucher programs in order to cover their costs related to development of employability, of creating jobs, of recruiting job seekers, placing job seekers, and coaching and preparing them for the employment, as we see it in the case of the Austrian model, and also costs of job seekers for develop their employability or even their own businesses, like it had happened in case of the Czech model, which unfortunately couldn't present now, but in a former within a framework of the former webinar, the Czech model also had been presented. The result of this mechanism, of course, is our final and general goal is the employment, increase of employment, especially in case of specific disadvantaged groups. So what is needed for keeping this mechanism moving? Money that according to the original concept of social impact voucher programs is covered by or provided by social impact funds, which according again to the original idea would have been or should have been financed by private capital. So this was the initial concept, and during the implementation of the project, during the setup of the social impact funds, as well as the social impact voucher programs, we have it. Okay. Social impact voucher programs, as we have mentioned before, the partnership faced with a lot of challenges that forced us to modify the funding concept of the voucher programs. These challenges were mainly related to the economic and social macro context, namely the COVID pandemic and the economic crisis which emerged as a result of the COVID-19 crisis, and recently the Ukrainian war and the migration crisis which had been caused by the war also had a deep impact on the micro context of our voucher programs. All of these let's say changes resulted in labor market changes, of course. That means the unemployment drastically and quickly increased, especially as a result of the COVID pandemic. But as a mutual, let's say, consequence or result of these micro contextual changes, the available labor force on the labor market also increased. This resulted changes in the labor market policies based on the experiences of the former economic crisis in 2008. A new goal had been, let's say, set up for labor market policies, public policies, that was keeping people in work and employed. And for this goal, traditional labor market instruments has been scaled up. So loads of public finance had been or became available on the labor market to mitigate labor market consequences of COVID, just like job protection wage subsidies or job creation wage subsidies, sectoral wage subsidies, shortened working schemes. So all of them tested and proven labor market policy instruments that were, let's say, capable to mitigate the labor market consequences of the crisis situations and handle mass unemployment and mass consequences of these crises. These changes in the labor market policies and the labor market as well caused changes in the strategies and priorities of the private or impact investors on the market. It turned out that in this crisis cases or situation, there is not so much need for innovative or experimental labor market instruments or services. Therefore, it wasn't a top priority for private and impact investors. And more important is that the investors started to seek for more secure and conservative investment opportunities to, let's say, secure their return on investment. Also, these crisis situations highlighted or some planning weaknesses of our voucher programs, namely we didn't plan with the return on investments in case of private investments. Also, the refunding willingness of employers or employees who we expected will be, let's say, satisfied with the services of the voucher programs and will be ready to refund some of the subsidies they received through the voucher programs. So this refunding willingness was much lower than we expected, and it turned out, based on their experiences, that even impact investors are looking for more concrete issues to invest in. So they are seeking for issues, specific target groups, specific cases to support, and not the, let's say, general labor market or employment goals. All in all, these changes resulted in the, let's say, identification of a need for cooperation with public policies and the need for involvement of public funding in our voucher programs. So, and the next slide, if I could, yes. So the original model, the original concept had been complemented with a public funding element, and to be able to identify public funding and cooperation opportunities with public policies, we implemented policy reports in which we identified the available public funding opportunities for financing social impact voucher programs. And another objective of this policy reports was to formulate country-specific and European level recommendations on how to facilitate or accelerate this public and private cooperations regarding employment developments and labor market policies. As a result of the policy report, I won't go to the details. We identified European and other funding instruments in each country. Especially, we were focusing on ESF Plus, ERDF, and other national and European funds or resources, which could be integrated for financing social impact voucher programs and other innovative labor market instruments. Due to the lack of time, I won't go to the details. I just would like to, let's say, highlight that the policy reports will be available on the SIV webpage. So the results of this policy screening will be available, and the concrete ESF, ERDF funding opportunities for social impact voucher programs and other funding sources for social impact voucher programs can be found in those policy reports. I would like to focus more on the conclusions of our voucher programs and our policy screening regarding how to involve public funding in social impact voucher programs and how to influence public policies. So based on the experiences of the partnership of our partners, there were two main and successful strategies that can be followed to be successful on this field. One is the membership or participation in regional or national ESF Plus, ERDF, and other public funding planning working groups. For example, in case of one of our German partners, Diakoni Württemberg, they were members of the regional ESF planning working group, and this working group expressed the intention or the opportunity at least to integrate in social impact voucher elements or priorities in the regional ESF Plus policy instruments. However, no concrete measures could be identified yet in the case of this partner, but this can be a solution or strategy which can bring success in influencing public policies regarding involvement of or integration of social impact voucher programs in public labor market policies. The other, let's say, option or opportunity for this is the cooperation with labor market stakeholders or networks, which has an influencing potential on policies for European level and national funding programs. As a result of these strategies, of these approaches, an enabling policy environment can be created. What does it mean? An enabling policy environment is dedicates funds, financial resources for innovative labor market instruments, creates clear legal and financial regulations on how to implement these innovative labor market instruments, namely, for example, social impact vouchers, and let's say announces or creates tailor-made programs for financing such kind of instruments or programs. The results of these efforts on another level can be the project level funding of social impact voucher programs and other innovative labor market instruments. In this case, the social impact voucher programs are individual and innovative solutions for the employment problems addressed by the policy instruments. So in this case of social impact voucher programs can be integrated in project finance by European or national resources. The other option is the program level funding, when the social impact vouchers or other innovative labor market instruments are integrated in funding programs as financing tools for labor market challenges. As a result of our policy screening and project implementations, we could, let's say, formulate some conclusions and recommendations regarding how to approach the public sector and public investors, but also private investors. As I mentioned it, even the public and the private investors are more attracted by concrete labor market programs and would like to support the labor market integration of concrete target groups. So we collected, based on our experiences, what are the hot topics to mobilize and attract private and public funders or investors for social impact voucher programs. There are several concrete target groups like the youth, especially the NEETs, or long-term unemployed or low-educated people. Based on these target groups, successful initiatives can be created based on the cooperation between public and private sectors. Also, gender-balanced employment or economic labor market and social development of peripheral underserved territories and communities, like in case of Hungary, can be attractive for influencing public policies. Also, development of skills, supporting the labor market integrations, digital transformation or career change of job seekers. These are hot topics, for example, in case of Austria's voucher programs, but also in Poland. We identified it as a great opportunity to influence public policies and strengthening entrepreneurship or self-employment, like it happened in case of our Czech voucher program. So we collected in these policy reports these hot topics as recommendations for influencing public policies. And on my last slide, and I won't go into the details, we also identified in these policy reports and during our social impact vouchers project kind of arguments for public investors or public policy makers to convince them why they should cooperate with the private actors and why they should let's say, integrate social impact voucher programs in their policies. Why public funding is needed for the scaling and for the testing and scaling of these kind of innovative labor market policy instruments like social impact voucher programs, and why does it worth to invest in such initiatives. Here I would like to stop for a while. So here I would like to emphasize the importance of the social impact that is, let's say, a convincing argument, or that might be a convincing argument either for public or for private actors in these models. And here also I'd like to emphasize the importance of public impact measurement that is crucial to demonstrate the added value of such programs and the return on investment. So this can be used for justifying and building trust towards innovative employment instruments like social impact vouchers. I, let's say, indicated 3 other webinars, 3 former webinars which we hold within the frameworks of the webinar series of SIV project, as the former webinars provided more detailed answers for these questions and more detailed arguments for public investors to convince them why they should, let's say, consider the development or integration of social impact voucher programs in their public policy initiatives. So this is what I could tell regarding our results, recommendations, and conclusions of the social impact voucher programs regarding the development of innovative employment policies. If you have any question, recommendations, or remark, please don't hesitate to address either me or those who have been involved as guests today in the implementation of the webinar. Thank you for your attention. Now I will stop sharing. And yes, we are open for the discussion.
Yeah, first of all, also again, I can say that I was really impressed again about this variety of the presentations, and I think it's a very important part of the puzzle, let's say. And also while doing this presentation in the preparation, also again, I had the feeling that this innovative topics are too important. And after listening again to all the presentations now, it's stated more and more. Also, as I wrote in the chat yesterday, we had a discussion about these topics, and also then we discussed about Caritas, how innovative they are, also been in the past. And as we saw now from the presentation by Clemens, again, they're very innovative in this sense that they are following also the mega trends and all that. I think for all the participants and all the companies, it would be important to have this in mind, also to develop in this sense. And in my opinion, these presentations today showed these necessity to do it. So this was my impression today. And also what I can say, that I think all the presentations are somehow also connected, as we saw now for the webinar fund. And also we had, as you mentioned, Tamas, this webinar about vouchers. There you can also see these innovative models, and also the first webinar was very interesting. So I think it would be recommendable to have a look on all the videos if you have missed maybe one of them, and then you have a whole picture of these webinar series, and it's a good impression also for you to have here a good overview about all the topics we have done. And of course, I recommend also to visit all the websites, all the videos. We have a lot of videos done, and also a lot of interesting blogs on our website. You see the website in my presentation on the contact form, and then you have a wider impression about all the activities, what was going on. And this I just wanted to give to all of the participants to have here the best effect on these webinars as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anja, for sharing your thoughts, and also for raising the participant attention on the other webinars. They will be available soon to the SIV webpage. And also thank you very much for raising the participants' attention on the other communication channels and materials of SIV project. There definitely they will find a lot of answers for their maybe their questions, which will emerge during the examination of our results. I don't know if any more comments or reflection, question has emerged. If no direct or concrete question, as we have said, we are always available for these questions. So please don't hesitate to address us through the availabilities which we have shared during our presentations. Also, these availabilities can be found on the SIV webpage and the communication channels. So now my task is to say thank you all for following us either through these four-part webinar series, or just today. Thank you very much for your attention, for being present, and thank you very much to all those who contributed to the implementation of this webinar today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tamas.
Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Have a very nice day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.